clerk please call roll?
Dr. Ramona Becker.
Here.
Guy McDonald. Betty Martine.
Here.
Peggy O'Donnell.
Here.
Diane Wynn.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Wonderful. And with all of our scheduled meetings, we'll open with a moment of silent prayer, if you'll join me. Amen. Now please rise and join us in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everyone watching at home and in the audience here tonight. Welcome everybody to our July 18th regularly scheduled meeting of your Bel Aire City Council. Tonight, we have a number of items on the agenda. We have a petition, we have a couple of agreements, we're going to look at a change order, and then two what I think are probably the most important items. They're all equally important. We're going to look at a marketing agreement, and we're also going to vote to publish our budget, which we've been working on for a number of months. So that is all on the agenda for this evening. But first item to come before council this evening is approval of the minutes of the July 3rd, 2017 City Council meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
We have first and second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And do let the minutes show that we are full and McDonald is here. Welcome. Okay.
Sorry to be late, Mr. Mayor.
You're okay. Next item is discussion and approval of appropriations ordinance. This meeting, the total is $203,682.96. So basically, $8,800 of it went for engineering there in the courtyards at Elk Creek, and the rest was for all of our daily operations.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve appropriations ordinance 17-14.
Second.
First, and we have 2 seconds. Questions or comments about appropriations ordinance 17-14? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? City requested appearances, I have none. Citizens' concerns, is there anyone wishing to address council this evening? We get 2 reports.
Mr. Mayor, we have several people in attendance.
Yes.
I'm surprised that no one wants to speak to the council. No one here wants to speak to the council. That's okay.
Okay. First, we'll go ahead and start with council member reports, and we'll start with Betty Martine.
No report, Mayor.
Councilmember Wynn?
Very short. Not anything in the past, but I will be attending the Board of Directors meeting of REAP tomorrow. And that meeting, again, we are still working on direction for REAP and more members. And I did see in the agenda that there will be about 4 new members who will be approved. I'm sure they'll be approved at that meeting. So, and that's all I have.
Appreciate you doing that. Going to that. Councilmember O'Donnell?
The CCUA meets next week, so I'll give a report in August, so I don't have any other report. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember McDonald?
Mr. Mayor, at the last council meeting, at the last workshop, I indicated that I wanted to call for the dissolution of the CDC because I was told by several citizens that they did not have members who were in attendance that was in opposition to your information that they did have attendance and they did have a quorum. And since I have been a volunteer, I did not realize how long I'd been a volunteer for this city. I've been a volunteer for 15 years for this city, and on the tree board. And now, for the first time since I was, been elected, to the city council, we have a full tree board. And these are true volunteers. These people give up their time, and they give up their money. I was a member of the tree board, and we put flowers out in front of City Hall. That was, the City Hall didn't pay for. The city didn't pay for that. The members, individual members, paid for that. And so, in my mind, they are true volunteers. That's what we need in this city. And now we have a group I've had several complaints against. Several citizens have complained that the members of this group do not do what they wish, and we gave them $10,000. $10,000. The city has never given the tree board $10,000. The city has never given the tree board $1, except when the tree board planted a tree in honor of someone or planted a survivor tree. The city paid for that, and I'm thankful for that. So I am still going to maintain, Mr. Mayor, I'll let other members of council speak, but I'm going to ask for the dissolution of this particular committee because I don't think they're the same type of volunteers that we have on the tree board. And that's pretty much it, Mr. Mayor. My report is finished, and then after other members of council speak, I will make the motion to dissolve this particular committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It is on the agenda as you requested. Dr. Becker?
Well, first of all, I'd like to mention Gordon Jones, which we've done several times, but he's now officially ended his tenure and all his faithful work for many years on the Planning Commission. And I'd just like to publicly thank him because he's been a tremendous, good volunteer on that commission, and sometimes it's a thankless job, like so many others, when you're trying to serve the common good. The Planning Commission has to deal with some pretty dicey issues sometimes, and it's not always fun. But he has been on that Planning Commission for many, many years, and I'd just like to recognize him and thank him for all of his service. And I wondered, does the committee, or does the city ever recognize people for service like that of a long
Yes,
tenure?
we typically do.
Did we
yes.
give
Well,
something
and-
to Gordon?
He's on our list.
Okay,
to do,
great.
and,
Okay, very good.
Finishes that out, yeah.
I just hadn't heard anything about it, so I wanted to mention that. And I also noticed that we got the semi-annual report from the senior club, and I wanted to thank them for that because that helps all of our seniors in the entire city of Bel Aire meet our quotas and all that type of thing. So I really wanted to thank them for getting that report in to us. And I won't be able to attend the REAP meeting, unfortunately. I have a conflict, so thank you so much for being so faithful about that, Councilwoman Wynn. I appreciate you taking care of that for us. And last of all, I just want to tell everybody to be careful with this extreme heat we're having. It's really been kind of brutal this week, so we all need to be aware of that. And I do appreciate the city putting out information about that in our tweets, telling people how to take care of their pets and giving reports and things like that. And I think that's a tremendous service that the city's doing, and I hope we keep that up. And I hope we get even more followers, because I enjoy them every day. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. And I have no formal report, but just an observation that last week when I was interviewed by both Channel 10 and Channel 12, and had more people stop me and ask me about the stupid moped. And that, I've already been told that this could possibly develop into something in gridiron.
Wow.
So you've made it when gridiron is considering you, but kind of along the lines of what Dr. Becker spoke about with the tweets. That was something where our social media, and I know our marketing representative handles those, and has really done a great job of getting that information out and talking about the wipes, and again, like you mentioned, the heat issues. So for that. And I just want to close by saying that I'm grateful for all of our committees and every single one of our volunteers for what they do for this city. Earlier today, I received a phone call from the chairman of the Planning Commission telling us how much they appreciated David Floyd's input in the very first meeting, and how they're excited to have him as a new member. So we do have a number of committees here. So I just wanted to say I'm grateful to all of you for what it is that you do. And with that, I will move to City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before this meeting at 4, I had a chance to be introduced to the Utility Advisory Committee, and that was a good introduction. They have a lot of the history of Bel Aire, and they cover some really important work. So I was glad to meet with that committee today. Just want to update you on some legislation. One particular piece that may impact Bel Aire in the future, it's cities and counties are now able to create common consumption areas where people can move around outside areas with their alcoholic beverages in hand. Before this legislation passed, businesses had to have a special event permit, and that's still the case in Bel Aire unless and until you decide to change it. But that special event permit had to be obtained for each event. So you couldn't have a permanent place where you could have these events such as festivals or anything, and know that that place already was designated an area where people could carry their alcoholic beverages. The purpose of the legislation, Lenexa proposed it. They wanted to add an entertainment district, and thought having something in place at the state level would be an option for all cities. The potential impact for Bel Aire is going to be how we look at how you want to have picnics, bazaars, festivals, or other community gatherings, something to consider. But as is, we can keep everything the way it is now with permit from event to event. And just one other thing I would just update you on, I'm working on the Payne Township contract with Ann. And we're still negotiating. The key with that is going to be coming up with an objective standard that both sides can agree with on how well the road should be maintained. And we're just coming up with resolutions for that. And we hope to present something to council at the August 1st meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does anyone have any questions?
What was the name of the area that you mentioned? It's like a drinking area?
Right, it'll be called it's referred to in the legislation as a common consumption area.
Common consumption, wow.
Right, and then you can go from vendor A or business A, walk around the area, walk to business B without any sort of issues.
Well, is Kansas unique in not allowing this? I mean, I'm thinking of New Orleans and places like that.
Yeah, some states are more restrictive than others, but like you're saying, cities who really want that entertainment district where they can have a lot of businesses lining a street and people free to move about, the public space are more open. But I can let you know, I can do some more research and let you know what other smaller cities like us in other states are doing with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in that because there's a lot to think about with that.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items, and Dr. Becker created a good segue for me with all the heat, but the Central Park pool is open for anyone that wants to enjoy the pool and cool off. They have one more session of swimming lessons left, so if anybody wants to take their kids over and have swimming lessons, I think in another week or so they'll be taking another group of that. But the pool closes on August 13th, which is just about a month away. And then, of course, we'll have the next day on August 14th, we'll have the Bel Aire Hot Dogs Pool Party. And so I think all the planning's underway, and I just saw flyers today that they're getting ready to go out. And then last thing I wanted to mention, on your desk, there's a magazine. And if you look at the postmark there, you can see a third of a page related to Bel Aire and the Sunflower Commerce Park. And this was something that Councilmember Martin had asked me a couple months ago. There was appropriations for, I think it was $2,200 for advertising, and that's what it was for, is this magazine. This magazine is produced by the Kansas Department of Commerce, and it is the economic development guide that they produce. And you can look through there and see that there's a number of cities in here that have different sizes of pages and such. But the idea is these go out to any business or site selector that's looking at Kansas for potential business sites. And so we thought it was important to be in here. The Greater Wichita Partnership was working on a page, and they were inviting cities to be involved in that page. But for the cost, we felt it would probably be better in the fact that we have one of the prime business parks, that we should have our own third of a page. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that's $2,300 from our marketing budget that went out, and this will hit through the Kansas Department anybody that's looking at the state of Kansas for sites. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And under committees, boards, and commissions, Jeff Hawes with the Community Development Committee has asked to give a report.
And Mr. Lasher, I actually have packets for each of the council members and the mayor. Would you be so kind? Mr. Mayor, council members of Bel Aire, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to report on the Community Development Advisory Committee. My name is Jeff Hawes, and I'm the chairperson of the CDC. I have confirmed with the city clerk that the minutes and first quarter report were in your council packets. I have also included them along with a copy of this report in a packet we have brought tonight. In the packet, you will also find a copy of the roster with the officers of the committee. There have been some recent misgivings about what this committee does or does not do, and what it should and should not do. We would like to clear up some of this confusion. It has been said that we are not doing what the council wants, that the council wanted Woodlawn taken care of. We agree that we need to take care of Woodlawn. In several of the minutes and the quarterly report, you can see that we have discussed the options of putting new flags on Woodlawn. We have come to the consensus that Woodlawn is the best place to start putting flags, since it is one of the most traveled roads in Bel Aire. The flags we are checking into are banner flags with permanent brackets. These flags will not have to be taken down and put back up by city workers because of weather. In addition, these brackets will be able to hold different flags for different seasons. For example, 4th of July or Welcome to Bel Aire. We also spent many meetings discussing what Christmas tree to suggest and where to put the tree. The park on Woodlawn was discussed, but ultimately was decided that City Hall was a better location. City Hall is the most beautiful building in Bel Aire, and it was decided that it should be a focal point for events, starting with the Christmas festival and tree lighting ceremony. City Hall also has the things we need with electricity and meeting rooms to make it the perfect place for events. We also discussed whether we should have a real tree or a fake tree. Representatives from the Bel Aire Lions Club contributed to these discussions. It was decided that a real tree was the correct way to go. The tree was purchased from a Bel Aire business, Treetop Nursery, with the financial support of Bel Aire Lions Club. The reasons for a real tree over a fake one are the real tree was half the cost of the fake tree, has a longer warranty, and does not need to be stored in the off-season. With the help of the town arborist, the tree was placed in a location that the citizens will be able to enjoy for many years to come. We are very excited that this will be a wonderful event for the community on an annual basis. We agree and understand the need for additional volunteers is great. We have discussed this topic at several of the previous meetings. We are trying to handle this in several different ways. We had a booth at the recent open house and had a volunteer sign-up sheet. We received information from several people willing and wanting to help the city by volunteering. We are going to talk to the 2 local high schools to try to get volunteers. We have been actively discussing the CDC with friends and neighbors in Bel Aire to recruit members for the committee. Since the committee has itself taken over the operations of the meeting, we have strived to follow the resolutions that have been set forth. We have tried to fill vacancies. We have elected officers. We have submitted minutes of all meetings. We have submitted a quarterly report. We continually work with the community development specialist, discussing marketing ideas and even grants for parks. The planning of events is under the quality of life, which is the #1 goal and objective on the resolution. We take great pride and have great excitement in the things that we do. We think of ourselves as cheerleaders and ambassadors for the city of Bel Aire. 6 of the 7 members of the committee are here today. The one missing is in St. Louis for a follow-up doctor's appointment for the kidney she donated last year. We are in agreement that there are items in the resolution that needs to be changed. On the agenda for our meeting tonight is discussion of how it needs to be changed and what it needs to be moving forward. We are now going to excuse ourselves and commence our meeting. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for this. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into ordinances, resolutions, and final actions. Item A is consideration of accepting revised paving, water, and sanitary sewer petitions. This is for Phase 3 of the courtyards at the Elk Creek, the addition there. And council may remember we discussed this at our May 16th meeting. There were a number of vacations and lot adjustments that we made at that meeting in Phase 3 of the courtyards at Elk Creek. And that's when we approved them. So as a result, revised petitions and the respread agreement needs to be approval. And I see that Jason Gish from MKEC is here to explain this action, as well as the next item, which is going to be the respread agreement in the courtyards at Elk Creek. So this time I'd invite Mr. Gish to come forward. Talk about items A and B on our agenda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jason Gish, MKEC. So if you recall, a month ago, I believe, I was here and we were going through actions that were related to easement adjustments and things like that related to the last phase, which is under construction at the courtyards at Elk Creek. And what we're coming back before you asking for is to try to do the cleanup, if you will, on how the special assessments get appropriated to the lots. And what is driving this is the developer of that project had a block of lots. Within that block, I don't know if there are 10 or 12 in a row, they wanted to take 5 of those lots and change them into 4. It just gave them some more flexibility, gave them more opportunity to handle some more additional 3-car garage lots. And so what the petition does is it redefines basically the front page of that, and each one of the projects redefines basically taking what were 5 lots in addition to all the other ones, and it describes the legal descriptions of, we're taking, lot 37 and 12 feet of lot 36, things like that. That's not verbatim, but that's the idea. We're taking those 5, re-describing them into 4, which are fractions of the other ones. That's your first item there. Then the respread, what that does is that basically takes those 5 lots and says, we're going to take the, let's just say there was $100 spread against 5 lots. We're going to change that, keep the $100, but spread it against 4. So that's what that part does there. So that's, I tried to keep it simple. That's basically what all that does. The language within that is just recreates those documents and creates a vehicle to make it so. Any questions? Did I confuse you?
No.
No, you explained it.
Understood.
That was
Great.
great.
Very well presented.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So with that, I will entertain a motion. for
Mr.
item 8.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the revised paving, water, and sanitary sewer petitions for Phase 3 of the courtyards at Elk Creek.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments?
I'd just like to say, I think that's a very wise thing you're doing there, and I'm glad you got all the okays from everybody, and I think it just adds greater amount of options for people as far as having those 3-car garages, which is something everybody wants now.
Sure, certainly.
We have a first and second. Any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
All right. Next, to entertain a motion on item B then.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the respread agreement with Perfection Signature Properties LLC and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is item C, which involves dissolving the Community Development Advisory Committee. This was a topic at our last workshop. Councilmember McDonald felt that the best option was to dissolve the committee, to start over, and ask that this item be on the agenda. So it is here before you this evening.
And I have comments, Mr. Mayor. The Mr. Hawes appears to be an excellent representative for the city of Bel Aire, but I've listened to what he said. I've listened to what you have said about reports and people who have attended, and there are members here. There are members here who have attended that committee, and I applaud them. I applaud them as volunteers. But I have heard from several citizens, not just 1 or 2 or 3, several citizens, that there are meetings are not attended. They have virtually no members who attend the committees. And in order to be a good volunteer, for this city, for any city, but for this particular city, you have to attend the meetings. And I know that, and I can't, I'm so surprised that I've been a member of the tree board for 15 years. I can't believe that, but I was. And I can't be a member because I'm a member of the council now. And these people, the members, they take their own money. The tree board members use their own money, not from the city. They use their own money to plant trees, and they use their own money to, trim trees and trim things. And before I was even a member, they used their own money to plant trees. Now the city dug the holes, but the members planted it. And so when I am told that they don't have attendance at their meetings, when I'm told that by several members of several citizens, then I have to listen to that, because I was elected to listen to what these people say, to what the citizens say. And so I appreciate Mr. Hawes, and I appreciate the people that surrounded him today as members of this particular committee. But I am still going to call for the dissolution of that committee. And then if someone wants to produce another committee and Mr. Hawes is in charge and the other members are still volunteers, that's fine. I have no difficulty with that. So, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to dissolve the CDC, period.
There's a first, is there a second?
I'll second it.
First and second, are there any other questions?
I would
or
like to
comments?
make a comment. I appreciate the years that you have spent on the tree board. Obviously, this is a new committee, and many of these members have just recently moved to Bel Aire. I believe I have met all of them who stood up there tonight, and I find it very insulting to these members that we would say we were going to dissolve their committee. They are working, they are volunteers, not one of them get paid. I would dare say probably many of them have even put in their own money, their own time to volunteer. And I appreciate what they do for the city. I appreciate it. And I want to say that I have not had one person, Mr. McDonald, not one, tell me that this committee is not meeting and getting a quorum. And the mayor produced, and I mean, I don't believe these people are lying. He produced numbers for us that they're there. And so I, as a council member, want to say I support them, and I would find it very, very difficult for us to get volunteers in the future. If you guys want to see our city grow, I think we need to encourage these committees. This one's new, it's still finding its way. Why would we want to get rid of it and dissolve it? Those people all standing there are our citizens that are out there working, trying to make Bel Aire a better place. So I just want to thank every one of them. The one that's not here, I believe Chris Jones, she donated her dad a kidney last year, so she's back there. But I want to thank publicly all of them. And I will obviously be in favor of not only keeping this committee, but encouraging them as they move forward.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to respond. Councilwoman Peggy O'Donnell used the word insult. That's a word that she used, and I am not insulting any other member of our city. I didn't insult them. I simply said what was obvious to me, that I was told and have been told many times that they did not have quorums, they did not have members who attended, and they didn't do what the council wanted. We wanted to have. This is the only committee that I'm aware of in the past 4 years that has gotten $10,000. $10,000. The tree board has gotten $0, nothing from the city. But this committee has received that, and we asked them to do something on Woodlawn, and they didn't. They wanted to do it in Central Park. That's where most of them lived. And I was told that they don't attend. They don't attend the committee meetings. So I'm not insulting them. I respect Mr. Hawes. He gave a good account of what he does and what he wants to do. And he was surrounded by his members. And I do not want to insult him. I want to applaud them because they are volunteers. That's good. But Mr. Mayor, I'm not insulting anybody. I have to respond to what people tell me, and that's what I do, and that's why I made the motion to dissolve this committee. And if those same members want to become members of a new committee, that's fine with me, Mr. Mayor. I have no difficulty with that, because Mr. Hawes, he represented the group well. You know, that's all I can say. So, but I do not insult people. So that's my response, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
If you can hold tight, I'll get to you in a minute, but I do want to respond to just a couple of things. Just a couple of things you mentioned, Councilmember McDonald, you know, giving them $10,000. They've not actually been given that money. When you go through the budget, we have things allotted, and there are things that they have decided to do that goes along with other things that our marketing department, our city manager, and other departments have decided, and all of those items come before the council for approval. So I did want to clear that up, that it's not like there was just a $10,000 check given to them, but in the budget, some of the marketing, they have been able to produce a proposal for. And as far as attendance, I mean, I had the numbers from the minutes, and so I don't know why there's citizens out there who aren't at the meetings and telling you this, but you know, I shared those numbers. Yeah, there's a couple meetings that were low, and yeah, it's no secret that in January I reached out because the committee was fledgling and looking forward to get it back. And the other thing too with Woodlawn is that, you know, I think he talked about that that's something they're actually going to be doing this year, I thought. So yeah, so they're looking at that. But so I did just want to clear that up as far as, you know, for those at home, that there wasn't just $10,000 handed over to the committee.
Mr. Mayor.
76.
I have this one. I have this one today.
I'm sure you did. Go ahead.
That is BS, okay? And you can figure out what BS means.
Oh, tell me. I don't know.
Yeah, y'all know you don't know. No. This is the only committee that I'm aware of that has received $10,000 from this city. And they haven't used it the way that the city, this organization, wanted them to use it. They chose to use it in a different way. You know, we have full-grown trees that could be, you know, they could put electric lights on them, but they put them someplace. And the members of this committee who don't know where the damn tree is. They don't know where this tree is. It's located around City Hall someplace, but, you know, we don't know. We don't know where it is. And they paid, what, $2,500? You know, and it's good. It's good that they spent the money with Treetop, you know, a local nursery, and that's fine. But they're the only ones that have received the amount of money that was given to them. And, you know, like I said, I've been a member of the tree board. The tree board has not received 1 cent. The only thing that the tree board received, once they get a tree and they plant it, you know, a survivor tree or a tree in honor of some past member of the council, whatever, the city pays for it. But it's around, you know, they're 2.5-inch trees, and they're about $250, maybe $300, you know, and so that's it. So, Mr. Mayor, this $10,000 and people telling me that people do not attend their meetings, that tells me, Mr. Mayor, that it's not the same type of committee that the tree board is. The tree board members, they don't care. They don't care about their resumes. But apparently, people on this other committee do, because they're working, and I understand that. It's nice to have on your resume that you're a member of this particular group or this particular committee. And Mr. Mayor, that's a different kind of volunteer. And that's why I said, you know, I was impressed by Mr. Hawes, and I was impressed the fact that he had his group around him. That's, I can't say anything more. I can't say anything better than that. But when I call for the dissolution of this particular committee, that doesn't mean that I would be against the creation of another committee with a different set of agendas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
My turn. I have no particular axe to grind, but I think that you also need to hear from someone who was a member of the committee back when it really first started. And I chaired that committee for a year, and then I think I was vice chair the next year. We had no budget, zero. We had to beg if we wanted any money. And that's not to say we weren't given some, but most of the events were, we would go out and get sponsors for those events, and those sponsors paid money for those events. I noticed that Danielle is on the committee again, and I spoke to her when I first came in. She was on the committee then as well, and she is a very knowledgeable marketing person, and I'm very glad to see her there, kind of thing. What I saw when we were looking at the bylaws of the organization is that we are again in the midst of change, which is why there was a change then. It had been the Economic Development Committee, I believe, previously. Right. And we're now still in a change, and you're working with the rules and regulations from an older time period. And that is my concern, that we really need to redo those bylaws and really make it say what we want that committee to be doing. And I have to say to you, maybe some of the other council members got minutes, but tonight's the first time I've seen any of these minutes. So,
That's right.
yeah, I'm not, I mean, when I first came on, I know I spoke to the Utility Advisory Committee, and they informed me that they had been doing the minutes, but the council wasn't getting those. So I made pretty darn sure that they began to get those minutes, and we get those on a regular basis. And I know that Rick was the staff person that was in charge, and I know he kept minutes, and I know that the council kind of complained that you weren't getting any minutes from us. Well, they were going in. I don't know what happened to them at that point in time. So it's not a huge issue, but I don't know what happened in that chain of command. If they did all these minutes, why we wouldn't see them until now.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to confirm that and go a little bit further. I even emailed the city and asked for the information that you had from the other night at our workshop, and it was told to me that there were only 2 sets of minutes that had been submitted at that point. This was just in the last week. And so I'm very surprised to see all these minutes now that weren't evidently in City Hall before. So, we've been kind of left out of the loop on information, and I would like to say, the United States and America, ever since we've been a nation, we've been called a nation of joiners. People like to join things, and we have lots of clubs, and we join lots of things, and I'm one of those people. I love to join things. I've been on committees all my life. I'm a committee person, even when I was a young kid. And anybody who's served on a committee knows that you have all kinds of committee members. Some people come all the time faithfully and regularly. Some people just want to have their name on the list, and they'll come once in a while. Some people are there to work for every single event, and that is wonderful. And, like I say, every committee I've ever been on has these different varieties of members. all of which are usually appreciated, no matter, some give more than others of their time and effort. And so this is something that we see in committees. And personally, I think this committee is now revived. It seems like they have a new mission. It's not really a new committee, because even before Council Member Wynn was president of that committee, before she was on the council, this committee, as you well know, had been in existence a number of years. And I can say that I was the liaison after I got on the council, and I asked several times for them to look at the bylaws and so they would know if they were fulfilling the mission that had been given to them. And they were sent out when Rick was here, but I don't think the committee ever discussed them. And so I'm glad to see that now they're going to do that, because that's been very important. When you're on a committee and you have a mission, you need to know exactly what you're doing and how to fulfill that. So I think, I don't think we really need to dissolve this committee, because we need this committee for our city. We need people to work and help with our events and all this type of thing. But I do think that we have been kind of left out of the loop. I do think they should meet on a night perhaps when the council can have a liaison there. Doesn't have to be me, but just somebody from the council. And I think that when we've got a committee that's fired up and ready to go for whatever reason, that's a good thing. So I don't think we need to dissolve it. I think we need to look over the bylaws in conjunction with the committee as they review them themselves, and see that we're all on the same page. And I would love to see more participation in events, which has been lacking, as we all know. And that would be a good thing. And it's kind of like sometimes you give your team a pep talk, if I can talk here, and that helps. That gets things going, and maybe that's what we're seeing here. So this could be
I think so,
thing.
and I hope so. And I'll just say, I'm going to, for full disclosure and to really age myself, this is how I met Councilmember Wynn and Councilmember Becker, Dr. Becker. It was, 12 years ago when we actually served on the committee. And see, so three of us here kind of evolved in that for people who had a love for this city. And to hear, I think you said it perfectly, maybe kind of a revamp, that pep talk. What I heard from the presentation just a few moments ago from the chairperson was kind of exactly what some of our issues have been up here, that we'll get them back going, that they want to, that they need to find volunteers, and that they're going to, that they too kind of work with us on coming up with a resolution. I think it's exactly what Councilmember Wynn said, that we're looking at these old things where, it was a number of years ago when this committee, whether it was called the Community Development Committee, Economic Development Committee, there's been a couple of different names. And there were times where to get something going and I don't have to remind anybody up here about where this city was just a few years ago and where we are today is night and day. And that's why I'm so glad to hear you say that this revamping, this refresh, because I think it is vital that we keep. So,
Mr. Mayor, may I add just one thing? I believe that it says in here that the Bel Aire Lions Club actually approved also what he read to us, and there wasn't even a place on Woodlawn to plug in a tree. There was no lights, but I believe, it said here that the Bel Aire Lions Club also agreed, and Councilmember McDonald has said multiple times that the tree board never gets a cent. I would be in favor of, I don't know what they need, but if you need $1,000 to plant some trees around town or do I would think we could find that in our budget to help you. You guys have never came that I know of in the 12 years I've been on council and asked for anything, But I want to tell you publicly that I don't want to begrudge what they're doing with the money we've allotted to them. They haven't even spent it all. But I would gladly give the tree board some money to plant some trees or whatever you need. So I want to go on record as saying, let's have that in there and do that for you guys, because we appreciate all our committees.
And council member, in response to that, I have asked, as a member of the tree board, for money for the past 4 years. I've asked for it, and the city has not given us anything. I have asked on several occasions. I can't give you the times when I did that, but I asked that the city give the tree board, which is one of the best committees.
Sure.
That this, this tree board has made us nationally aware. People, there are some people in states all over the 50, or not Alaska or not Hawaii, but the 48 contiguous states. They know that the tree board has done things, that this Bel Aire tree board has done things that no one else has done. No one else has done. And I've asked for money on several occasions, and we have gotten nothing. The tree board. And of course, I'm not a member of the tree board, because I'm a member of the council. But I attend the meetings. I attend them, and
Well,
they're all good. They're all good volunteers, and we're not. I didn't ask for $10,000. I asked for enough money for us to plant pansies, for God's sake, or dahlias, or whatever. And we've gotten nothing as a consequence. So, and again, I'll just reiterate: I'm not insulting any other member of the group that represent the CDC. I'm not trying to insult them at all. But darn it, this city, should be able to complement financially, just a few $1,000s, or several $100s. They should do it. The tree board members should not have to spend their own money to buy pansies or dahlias or anything else to plant around City Hall. That is just, it's just not a good thing. And as far as Dr. Becker is concerned, I understand what she said, that she wants to keep the committee and so on. And by asking for the dissolution of this particular committee doesn't mean I'm trying to insult the individual members. Simply dissolve it and have those same members come up with a new committee that this council can understand and recommend their purpose. And we haven't done that. That's my response, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's my turn. I appreciate Jeff Hughes coming and speaking to us tonight. There's a lot of stuff in these 18 pages that he handed out I've never seen. And I appreciate the whole committee standing behind him. And then we did discuss in our workshop and found out that the bylaws, I know I've seen a signed copy of the bylaws somewhere years ago, but it couldn't be found now. And so I know there's a motion on the floor, but I won't be voting for that. I'd like to make, after that motion's taken care of, I feel like that we should ask Mr. Hughes, after we study these 18 pages that the committee has given us, to come to our next workshop, set up the bylaws, and how many people there are supposed to be on the committee. I think I read in here quickly they're supposed to have 12, they only had 8 show up or something of that sort. I can't state that for a fact because I read it quickly. But it is a good committee, but being we don't have the bylaws signed, they really have nothing to follow.
And that's something that we'll work on,
Well,
absolutely.
we need to get it taken care of now, not
Well-
next month, next year, or whatever.
Well,
But I would like to have Jeff Hughes come to that meeting at the time that we discuss the Community Development Advisory Committee report. He can take it back to his committee and we can go from there. And we could still, at a later date, dissolve this committee if we feel it's not needed, or keep them going. And because all committees do good work for the city. I worked on committees for 20 years on Bel Aire Day Committee, and it's hard work. And it's hard keeping members that'll keep coming back. That's all.
Appreciate it. We do have a first and second on the floor. I think we've had a lot of discussion. Are there any other questions or comments? I'd like to go ahead and call the vote on this, I think. So I'll do that. All in favor of, again, the motion made by Councilmember McDonald to dissolve the Bel Aire Community Development Advisory Committee / Board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails. And we will. We'll
Mr. Mayor.
absolutely work with the with this committee and make sure that we get updated bylaws and updated resolutions so we're all on the same page. I think that's important, and I still see a member of the committee here, and the one that Councilmember Wynn just complimented a few minutes ago, and value all your marketing skills, Danielle, and thank you for what it is that you do, and we look forward to a little bit earlier, previously, Dr. Becker kind of talked about this kind of being a good pep talk and a revamping, and that's the way I want to look at this. I really do, so thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask the city attorney a question?
Sure.
Is this the time for me to make the motion for the workshop for this committee?
From what I understand, you can make it now, or you can just, you can let Ty know and we can have it in the agenda at the next meeting. We can put it on the agenda at the next meeting, but if you'd like to make a motion for this to go on the workshop agenda now, you may. I don't think you need to make a motion to get it on the workshop agenda.
Yeah, just under future issues, we can go over the agenda items.
So we can ask Mr. Lasher if you would invite Jeff Hughes to come to help us discuss this?
Yes, and I can put that on the agenda for the next workshop if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to correct, it's Jeff Hawes.
Hawes,
Yeah, okay.
sorry.
All right,
Could I make one more comment?
please do.
I think there's always a good reason for everything. And I think this was good stimulation to talk about this committee, and they've kind of got a shot in the arm now, and we're going to get those bylaws worked on and hopefully have real good participation from everybody. And there have been some excellent members on that committee, and Danielle, I want to compliment you because I know you're fantastic and has been for several years now. And so I just am glad that we've had this discussion. I think it's good. I think it's positive. And we'll be looking for some great things now.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to move us along.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead,
If I
Donna.
may ask
Okay.
one more thing, I would like to have us discuss having council liaisons on the committee again. I believe that was helpful when I was chairing the committee and on the committee, and I believe it would be helpful again. Not sure when it happened that they were dismissed. So
Well,
if you
they
could
meet
put it-
on Tuesday night, and none of us can go.
I think you guys told them that they can't meet then, though.
I beg your pardon?
I think we kind of talked at the last workshop saying you guys didn't want them to meet on that day, so I would imagine.
Well, that's because nobody could go.
We talked about it several times.
I would imagine they'll probably.
And we
they're-
had a
they're-
resident come that wanted wanted them to move to some other night, and he happened to be from Lions Club to attend the meetings.
We'll talk about this again at the workshop. I'm going to move us on to item D, which is the agreement with Jones Commercial Development Company. As I've said in the past, and as we heard at our last workshop, the time is right to move forward on retail and commercial development. In order to be successful, we need someone who has the experience, knowledge, and the contacts. Marlon Penner was here at our last workshop, and he suggested Jerry Jones be considered for this role. And then we heard from Mr. Jones, and he and Mr. Penner actually both attended our last workshop on July 11th. The consensus that I gathered that evening was that this contracted position is needed and that Mr. Jones would be the right person. I know there's a consultant document I think you guys have seen, and that Jerry has said that he's comfortable signing, so wanted to put that before council this evening. So I encourage approval of that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the agreement with Jones Commercial Development Company and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye. That was too fast. You didn't give us
We're just
a
all
chance.
so excited.
Could I make a comment after the fact?
Sure you should.
Okay, since I officially called the vote, it was passed unanimously, and we absolutely will have comments. I think Councilmember Wynn and Councilmember Becker both want to speak, so I'm going to.
Just in looking at the agreement itself, I had a couple of questions about it and tightening it up, and I don't know that we need to take up a whole lot of time. Maybe just a communication with the attorney. Did you write it, or that kind of thing. I'm a little edgy about the fact that he may become a developer or partner in a development kind of thing. I'm a little nervous about that for various reasons. And again, I know of Jerry, and he's an upstanding man. This is an agreement that may go on, however, or may become someone else at some point in time, and I don't want to have to start over then. So I'm a little edgy about that. And then there were a couple of other places where I went, wow, that's pretty open, that we might want to put some limits on how many conferences and meetings he goes to, kind of thing. So.
Right, and I would say as far as the conferences and meetings, we do have a requirement that
That they
all
be
that be approved. So you'll have some control on that. The part about him being a developer, I'll let Ty expand any more on it, but because this is a one-year contract and the goal was to get development here, and he is so closely connected to the development community, it seemed like allowing that within the bounds of this one-year contract with the city's open-ended ability to terminate the contract if we're dissatisfied at all, and with the condition that any work product that he gets from the city is to be used exclusively for the city's benefit. It was, I think that it does put some limitations on it. It's a very specific contract to the city's relationship with Jerry. And so that's what I'd have to say.
Okay. I just made my comments, so.
Okay, I had that same concern, and I'm glad to hear your explanation of it. And it is just a one-year contract, and I do think it's going to be exciting to see what happens. I'm really excited about it. And even though, as we mentioned in the workshop, the survey from the city was not real conducive or in favor of this type of thing. I think not everybody answered that survey. The questions weren't really put forth to address this type of thing, and I think our citizens will be happy to have some local gathering spots and places that we can go real close to home for a nice dinner and things like that, or whatever other type of development that he might be able to do that's different than what we've been doing in the industrial park. And we do have some good spots for places like that, and I think it's just wonderful that we're going to give this a shot, and he seems like the perfect person to do it, so.
Excited.
Any other comments on? Sir. Thank you, sir. On Jerry Jones and the Jones Commercial Development Company? Okay. We are going to move on to item E, which is Eagle Lake Park and the City Hall parking lots. Staff feels the parking lots at Eagle Lake Park and the City Hall are in need of some repairs. This seems to come up every so often in order for them to properly be maintained. So Public Works did receive a quote from PP&J for the repairs at City Hall and Eagle Lake parking lots at a cost of $7,250. Ann Stevens, our city engineer, is here to answer any questions that you might have, or if you want to share any more information with the council, I would certainly invite you to do so at this time.
If you have any questions, I'm certainly open for them. Last year, we did some modifications and repairs to the north parking lot. They turned out beautifully. Every so often, we need to do, every 4 or 5 years, we do need to repair and seal the parking lots to keep them in good condition. So we would like to do the south parking lot at City Hall this year. I included some pictures of some of the cracks. If you have been to the south parking lot, it's getting in pretty dire straits. It needs some significant repairs. There's not enough to ask for repavement or anything like that, but it does need to get addressed before it starts deteriorating further. The Eagle Lake parking lot is actually in very good condition, but it does need to be sealed and have some cracks addressed.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Ann, is this $7,250 in the street budget?
There is a line item in the budget for public grounds improvements,
Okay.
and that is what we used last year for the north parking lot, and we are planning on using this year for the south and Eagle Lake.
And we still have enough left to
Correct.
cover this?
Yes,
Thank you.
10,000.
And
I didn't see a breakdown, maybe I just looked too quickly, for how much was going for the parking lot here at City Hall and how much was going for Eagle Lake, because the reason I say this is because I drove over there to Eagle Lake and I thought that parking lot looked pretty good.
Yeah, it is in pretty good condition, but it does need to be resealed.
Okay.
There's a breakdown in your agenda.
right here.
The City Hall South parking lot is $5,700. The Eagle Lake parking lot is $1,550. So
Okay, that's
significantly less.
So that's kind of just preventive maintenance, so that it
Correct.
doesn't get worse and we have to spend more money on it.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
Because I know
thanks.
some other people might drive in there and see that and think, oh, this doesn't really need anything, but.
Yeah,
I
it
appreciate
is in pretty good condition, but we need to keep it sealed and we need to get the cracks as well as the pavement, so
Okay.
it doesn't deteriorate further.
Great. Thank
So
you.
this is kind of one of those things where they're already out here, might as well
Correct.
take advantage and get this.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm going to ask an illiterate question, since
Sure.
I live less than a block from Eagle Lake, formerly known as the Puddle. Where is the Eagle Lake parking lot? Is it over on the west side?
It is in the southwest corner.
Okay.
It serves the playground that's
Ah.
over there and allows
Okay.
residents that don't live along Eagle Lake to park there and walk.
Okay. Thank you.
It's pretty nice,
Mr.
yeah.
Mayor?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Bell.
Go ahead.
ahead.
That's okay. Councilmember Peggy Sue, let her ask the
Okay.
question.
I just had a question for you on the, we bought the striper.
Yes.
Is it not able to do things like this striping?
It can do the striping.
the material that we have doesn't last near as long as the professional striping.
Okay.
What we cannot do is the sealing of the pavement.
Well, I knew that, but I was wondering about the striping because I knew we bought that machine.
Sure. It's going to last a lot longer if we have them do it.
Okay, that makes sense. I just
We need to
wondered.
sell that striper.
I didn't want to buy it, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, now,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sue brought up a different topic that I was going to actually ask about, but we were told by the members of the boards that the striping machine was going to, if we bought one, we would be able to take this machine and go to Keachai and Valley Center and so on, and use our material, our members that would, and it was going to, but this is not a regular striping machine. This is a parking lot striping machine, and we weren't told that. I don't remember being told that, and so I am very hesitant. I will be very hesitant. I only have 4 more months of membership on this council, but if the boards come up and they want to buy another, if they want to do something, I'm going to be in favor of not using this striping machine because it's a parking lot thing. It's not this thing. It's not the parking. It's not the regular striping machine that you see on the cities, around us. So that's another topic, and then Councilwoman Peggy Sue brought that up, and so that's it. But the purpose of my objection to that, I've just stated it. And now we're talking about another subject. And if you'll remind me, please, staff member, please tell me what we're talking about.
We are looking at having PP&J do some parking lot improvements.
Oh, okay,
to
right.
both the Eagle Lake parking lot
I am
and
in favor of that.
the city
I'm very
south.
much in favor. So I will make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve what our city engineer has suggested.
Second?
First and second, and I'm going to make sure this is the motion to accept the proposal from PP&J for parking lot improvements at City Hall and Eagle Lake Park at a cost of $7,250, which is what our city engineer recommends. So therefore, we're good with the first and second on the motion? Okay. We have first and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All righty.
Can I make an off-subject comment about what we mentioned there?
Okay.
Excuse me, but, I wonder if we should sell that striping machine. Are we really using that for anything now?
it's good to have as a Band-Aid, but it does not perform the tasks that we really need it to. And honestly, we're much better subbing that work out to stripe the city streets, because I haven't personally tried, pretty much all of our staff has tried using the striper, and with the variations in the level of the surface, it's very, very difficult to get a line that looks straight.
Didn't we get that before you came?
Yes, I was not involved in that
Yeah.
purchase at all. I'm very glad to admit that.
I wanted to make sure we made that clear.
I was not involved in that purchase. I probably would not have recommended it.
If it's taken up too much space down there for you, I'd be in favor of selling it, because we really haven't been able to use it.
And,
Sounds like a workshop.
I would
After
second
those
that.
That's why I didn't.
without
Stripes
any
over
problem.
on Oliver, I thought, my goodness, the cops will never find out whether they're driving over the line or not.
And no, there was no alcohol involved. It is just very, very
Well, I knew
difficult
that, but
to get a straight
it
line.
was
Every
hard.
little
It
bump
was
sends your
horrible.
wheel a different way. So,
I think hearing that, Ann, if we
Thank
could
you.
ask you maybe sometime in the next, maybe before the end of the fall, kind of come back and let's have that on a workshop, talk about the future of our striper?
Certainly.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to say, if you can find a place to sell that particular machine,
Bring it to us
you just
sooner.
go ahead and do it. You don't have to come to the council. Just go ahead and sell it, and
There are many
that'll take care
staff
of it.
members down at the Public Works Building that would be very, very
Yeah.
happy to hear you say that.
Couldn't we put it on the next workshop? That's in August.
But I don't think we need to. I think that our city engineer can sell that darn thing. Well, we'll ask our city manager. Does he agree that she has the ability to sell a particular piece of equipment? And if he says no, then he'll give us the reasons why. If he says yes, then let her go sell it someplace.
Yeah, we could do like we do most of our equipment. We can sell it on Purple Wave. We've had pretty good luck with their selling some of our old equipment. So the only reason that if you want to talk about it further on a workshop would be, do you like the idea of the city being able to do striping internally or not? And if you say that everyone agrees that you would prefer to hire it out, then at that point, you've kind of decided that that's a policy that we don't want to do our own striping, and so we'll sell the machine. So if you want to talk about the city continuing striping, then we can put it on the work. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Mr. City Manager, are you saying that she has the ability, with your permission, to sell this machine?
yes.
You are. That's all I need to know.
I would just only ask that you just make sure everything's exhausted, and it's not something we sell, and a year from now, go credit wish we had it for that. But yeah, absolutely, I think your report could probably be very, very short to us on selling that. So.
I will make sure that I get you some rough estimates on what it costs to stripe.
Right.
Just so you guys are aware going in that we're trading this for that and what's involved in the trade-offs.
Thank
Gotcha.
you.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and
You're welcome.
thank you for accepting the new assignment now for
You're
good
welcome.
things. So, all right. Item F is consideration of approving a change order with Kansas Paving. This is for inlet changes over there at LaSalle Heights. A drainage inlet. This is in conflict with a new driveway over there in LaSalle Heights. So the inlet's going to need to be rebuilt by Kansas Paving. The cost of that is a little over $9,000, $9,085 to be exact. And Ann Stevens is still here, so talk to us.
As Mr. Mayor said, the inlet was originally built to be a curb inlet, but there is going to be a driveway being installed in that location. The location of the driveway during the plan design process was unknown. They shift depending on the layout of the house. So it was installed as a curb inlet. Now we know there's a driveway in the way. We can't move the inlet because it's in the lowest point of the street that collects the water. But what we can do is put a different lid on the inlet that would that'll install a grate that will allow the inlet to be driven over with no harm to vehicles.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve what the city engineer has just discussed.
Second?
There's been a first and second. Again, I'll read the official motion to approve change order number 1 on LaSalle Heights with Kansas Paving at a cost of $9,085, which is what our city engineer recommends. Appreciate you doing that as well. Any questions or comments on item F before we call the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving right along, this is another item we have kind of been discussing amongst ourselves for a few months, and then discussed specifically at our last workshop. This was another one of the topics from the July 11th workshop, and that's the marketing of Central Park. Crown 3 Realty was contracted to market the city-owned lots in the park and the landing, and that happened back in October of 2015. Unfortunately, the consensus of the council, and I'll say myself, is their marketing efforts have just not really met our expectations, and it was time to terminate the contract, allowing us to move in a different direction. Our city attorney has drafted the termination letter, which does require a 30-day notice. So I want to see if there are any questions for our city attorney before we move forward.
Mr. Mayor, so moved.
Okay. There's a
I'll
second.
second.
A second, first and second on the motion to approve the letter of termination with Crown 3 Realty regarding the residential developer agreement. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. And now, final item for this evening is consideration of approving the 2018 City of Bel Aire budget for publication. And this is one of those things we have to legally where we publish it and then we set a couple of public hearings for anyone who wants to come in and talk about that. We have been working on the proposed 2018 budget. We actually started this work back in May. And so after several workshops, I'm happy to report that we're, I think, ready to consider this 2018 budget with a 0 mil increase. On top of that, $400,000 towards street improvements. Additional capital improvement projects with no cuts. So those are just, I'm going to kind of piggyback on what we talked about here just a little bit ago. Where we were a few years ago and where we are today, guys. This is just great. And I'm excited about that. Our finance director, Ted Henry, is here to give the presentations. This is for the citizens of what the proposed budget looks like. The action is on the agenda tonight is simply to approve that we publish the budget. We're not actually approving the budget. These are just several steps that the state law mandates that we have to do. So again, tonight, this is just, we're going to ask the council to approve that the budget be published and setting the public hearing at our next council meeting. And then from that point on, the budget can be adjusted, but only through decreases. And so that's what we're here to go over tonight. So Ted, take it away.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. As you know, I'm here to present the budget. We spent past three workshops, 3 months, going line by line. The purpose of this presentation is mainly for the citizens to see exactly where their tax dollars are going. And I think this is the best way to communicate what our priorities are. As you know, I say it every time we meet is we have 4 big priorities and goals for this year's budget. A lot of them don't change from year to year, some do. Number 1 was no levy mill increase. As Mr. Mayor said, we are not increasing any mill levies for the 2018 budget. Last 4 budget cycles we haven't increased the mill levy, and the mill levies rate is at 45.73. I talked with many residents. I guess those are the 4 bullet points, and I'll go through each of them as I go through my presentation. I talked to a lot of citizens, and a lot of citizens will get their county property tax bill, and they'll see the number, pay it, and not know really how much is going where. There's a lot of different taxing authorities that you pay your property taxes for. I just want to take this opportunity to tell everybody listening or out there that if you just turn over that same sheet, you'll see exactly where the city of Bel Aire, how much they're getting, how much USD 259 is getting. And that's really helpful when we're talking about this budget. When we say certain percentage goes somewhere, you can relate it back to your own expense. The Wichita Eagle did a great comparison on mill levy rates for the Sedgwick County. The city of Bel Aire came in 10 out of 20, so we're right in the middle of all the cities in Sedgwick County. Thought it's important to point out. Our total assessed valuation, which is basically what the mill levy is attached to. As you can tell, we've been doing rather well the last few years, and continue hopefully with that growth with a cautious mind on our budget. Again, going back to our goals, the second goal was to look for ways to keep costs down and to reorganize to efficiently deliver service. The 2018 budget keeps staffing levels flat. Our staff has multiple responsibilities and must be cross-trained. I always point to our Public Works Department, who schedule major projects around vacation times and 6 times so that they can accomplish the major project, and I think that speaks well on our staff, how much we're able to do with what we have. In 2017, we refinanced the city's largest debt, which is our land debt. Our efforts saved about 2% in interest costs, which equates to about, or a little over $2 million in savings throughout the life of the loan. In 2018, the 2018 budget calls for the subscription of online training software that will increase compliance and training opportunities while decreasing travel expenses. The 2018 budget also allocates funds to purchase digital speed signs to be posted in various locations throughout the cities that will help save, help the safety of our travelers. The number 3 budget goal was to sustain fiscal stability. With so many needs, it's difficult to carry out a higher than normal ending balance, but our city chooses to do that for any type of rainy days, and the 2018 budget keeps that 30% of reserves.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Yes. You showed a graph, and the graph showed an upward. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. It showed. So I don't know if citizens who are watching this will understand what that means.
Sure.
So if you could explain that, it looks like we're getting increased. We're taking more money.
No.
So I want you to explain that a little bit better.
Sure. So your house has a value to it. The mill rate will be according to that value. So if your house increases in value, you'll pay a little more based on even if we don't change the rate based on the increase of value. Okay. This is basically showing that we turned lots that have a value of about $8,000, and someone moved into the city, built a house on it, and now they're worth $150,000. Okay. So that shows good growth within the city as far as building houses. And I'm sorry I wasn't more clear on that.
No, thank you for explaining that. Appreciate it.
And the fourth and final priority, and I think it was the major discussion point in all our workshops, is how much money can we use to improve our streets in the city. And I'm happy to say that for the second year in a row, we found $400,000 to improve our streets. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the general fund. The general fund is basically where all property taxes, sales taxes go. And as you can see on the chart here, property taxes, sales, and other taxes, which include motor vehicle taxes, about 75% of our total budget revenues. So very important line item there.
Mr. Mayor, so when you say 75% of city revenues, what you mean is income to the city?
Income to the city.
All right, thank you.
And then all other income is basically out of franchise fees, permits and licensing, fees and fines, recreation, grants and other revenues, about 25%. So when we look at a budget, we'll say for 2018 we have just under $5.5 million in revenue coming in. Now we go to the allocation or expenditure side, and this one I'll go a little more defined, but the top category is what I categorize as core services for governments. Land and debt expenses are our largest. They're 41% of our expenditures. This is the one item that we know what we're going to spend in 2018, and we have to allocate it. But as I said previously, we try our best to refinance when possible to lower those amounts. Public safety, which includes police department and court, about 20% of all expenditures. General government is the city council, the administration, and which includes city manager, city attorney, my finance department, and some customer service. General government is basically when you call the city, someone's going to answer and address your concerns. Also pays all the bills, which is very important as well. Facilities and non-department. This includes This category makes up, sorry, I'm getting a little off here. 4% of I will do planning and zoning. 4% of all expenditures are dedicated to planning and zoning department. This ensures buildings are safe and codes are enforced. 3% of all expenditures fund facilities and upkeep, janitorial service, liability, insurance, copiers, all IT support and equipment, yearly audits, and accounting software. And all those different categories I just explained is about 80% of our total budget, in which I categorize as core services for our citizens. The next major category would be more into the quality of life category. 15% of all expenditures fund recreation department, the parks department, senior center, and community development. About 50% of the community development budget includes the new home incentives that we issue, that we canceled in 2016, but we're still paying.
Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
We do, instead of $18,000 a year for the senior center, we're now getting $36,000 or thereabouts because of what? And that's an income to the city. Can you just briefly address that?
Yes, we've been, so the Sedgwick County has different levels of funding they provide to smaller cities that have senior programs. We've been trying for many years to get upper tier, $35,000 to $1,000 or up to $38,000, I believe. And this year we were told we would receive it. However, it needs to be allocated first, but we are planning to receive that funds.
And that's not an
How much?
expenditure, that's a receipt.
That's a receipt.
That's a
yes.
receipt from the
Or
county.
a revenue, yeah.
Okay, all right.
How much are we going to get from them?
And
Yeah,
Betty,
but-
we've been going back and forth a lot, and I talked to Jenny, and she said 35,000 was that what she was told, but the remaining 5% of our general fund budget consists of transfers out, and this is where $250,000 of the $400,000 will be transferred to the street fund for improvements. Also, the council decided that we also need to contribute to our equipment reserve fund. Everybody knows we have big expenses come every day. Also, our community our capital improvement reserve fund. So, two $50,000 transfers to those. The next slide pretty much shows that we are withholding 30% in reserves for rainy days. It's a summary report. If there's no more questions on the general fund expenditure, we can go to the street fund. The street funds calls for two transfers in. We discussed the $250,000 from the general fund. We'll also transfer $150,000 from the solid waste fund. The totals transfer $400,000 and plan to spend on street improvements. 25% of these funds will be used for maintenance, like we discussed earlier in the meeting. 16% of these funds will be for personnel, and 16% of all funds will be used for debt obligations. Now, the street is a little interesting because really they have one revenue source, and it's the fuel tax that we receive from the state and county. The past several years, we've always tried to beef it up because it's simply not enough to maintain our streets. And that's where something that we will continue to discuss in budgets and something we should look at in future years. Now we can go on to the water fund. I get a lot of questions on the water fund. Basically, we get 50% of our water from purchases with the city of Wichita, 50% from CCUA.
Mr. Mayor, would you explain what CCUA means to the people who are listening
It
and
is
watching?
the Chisholm Creek Utility Authority. I'm not sure the exact date when it was adopted, but basically Park City and us went together to build the facilities to treat water and wastewater, and that's what we'll talk about on slide 2. The annual debt service to build those facilities for the water fund, about $620,000. The treatment operations for the water fund's about $280,000. And we budget about $550,000 in 2018 for the purchase of water. Here's it in graphic form. About 90% of total revenues are from water sales. And this is where City of Bel Aire is a little different than other smaller cities. Some cities will have water wells that they'll sell back to Wichita and gain revenue. Pretty much all of our revenue is based off what we collect in water sales and utility. For water expenditures, as I tried to highlight it a little better, about 80% of all expenditures will go in and out of this fund for debt service and the cost of water. That leaving about 14% for upkeep and improvements and 8% for salary and benefits. And that's really where the struggle goes on as far as when we want to cut water, any kind of water rates, we'd have to do it out of just upkeep and improvements, which we really don't want to do, or personnel, which we need personnel to service lines. So that's where the struggle becomes evident. However, our water fund is stable and end with the balance. No questions. We'll go on to the sewer fund. We also partner with the CCUA, or the Chisholm Creek Water Utility Authority. About $760,000 is for annual debt service. $450,000 is for water treatment operations. I didn't know this before I started in government and city governments, but it's a lot more expensive to treat wastewater than it is to treat drinking water. And that's what the sewer fund shows.
So could you explain that a little bit better?
Well, I'm not too sure of the whole mechanics of it, but
just a general idea of how it, so there's wastewater.
Sure.
And then it goes into the sewers, and then it goes into the rivers, or the Arkansas River, and just explain what happens at the plant, what they do to wastewater in order to make it
and you want to come up and address that
clean enough to put into the river. That's.
I look at numbers all day.
Okay, so real nuts and bolts. Drinking water. There's two sources that can be used, either a surface water source or groundwater source. CCUA gets all of their water from groundwater. Bel Aire has several wells that we own. Park City has several wells. That water is combined, taken to CCUA, and treated. Solids are filtered out. There's a chemical that's put in to get the acidity lower to the required level, and then it's chlorinated and sent from the plant to us. So a very brief summary of how that's treated.
I've got a statement to make about that. You're saying groundwater, and to a lot of people, that means you dig down 6, 8, 10 feet, and you get water that's in the ground. That's not what we're talking about. In Bel Aire, we have diatomaceous shale, and we have billions of gallons of water. And people think that you can't drill a well in Bel Aire, and I can tell you, you can, because I have at least 3 wells, maybe 4 wells on my property, and they do it. But the diatomaceous shale doesn't want to release it. So you drill down 135 or 150 feet, and you have a 6-inch hole, and the water flows in at 5 gallons a minute, and that's nothing. If you go over to the west side of Wichita, you get hundreds of gallons flowing in. But here in Bel Aire, you don't have that. But we still have these billions and billions of gallons of water underneath us. And if a person has the money to do it well, that's it. But when you say groundwater, that means to me you go down 6 or 8 feet, and the water that's under there is it. So I want to clarify that. What you're saying is groundwater is, from my point of view, is not groundwater. It's water from beneath our city, and we can use that, even though it only comes in at 5 gallons a minute. That's nothing, of course, but it's real water. It works. I water my whole garden with my wells, water everything. So I wanted to clarify the difference between groundwater and water from the diatomaceous shale that we have underneath us.
It is the same water, but the city's wells are much deeper, like you mentioned. There is strict requirements on drinking water wells. They have to be a minimum of 50 feet deep, the screens that will allow the water to come in. And there's a lot of testing that needs to be done before they can be used for drinking water. So while it is the same water, it's a lot deeper and there's more regulations associated with it. Moving on to the wastewater is collected from your home, sent through city sewer pipes to a lift station. That lift station takes the sewage from a low elevation, pumps it to a high elevation in order to get all the water to flow downhill. There's a certain point that it becomes impractical to continue flowing downhill, so that's the lift stations pump it back up. They pump it, in some instances, they pump it via a force main, a under pressure main, to the CCUA treatment plant, where it goes through a fairly similar treatment process, but with the wastewater, there's actually microbes that are used that digest the fecal matter and any sort of organic matter that is in the wastewater. It goes through several periods of where the bugs eat the material and then they settle out and then they revise it again. So we have what's called an activated sludge treatment plant, if anybody's interested in looking that up. For my personality, it's kind of fascinating. Others, it's just gross. So that's, and then when the wastewater also it doesn't get chlorinated, but we use ultraviolet disinfection before we send it to the river. There's kids playing in the river, there's fish living in the river. We want the water to be safe. In some communities that are strapped for water, they will actually reuse that water after it's treated several more times. So it's a water cycle, but that's a nuts and bolts of water treatment, both drinking water and wastewater. And if you have any questions, I can certainly answer them, since Ted's more of a numbers person.
Who says budget presentation's more fun?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Biology lesson. Yeah. Okay. Getting back to the sewer fund, over 90% of revenues are collected via sewer charges. Much like the water fund, debt service, CCUA treatment payments account for over 70% of expenditures. This leaves 30% for staff, upkeep, and improvements. You will notice that we did do some sewer line testings, I believe either scheduled or doing in 17. We actually are going to do another sewer test in 2018, which is good. You always want to keep and maintain those lines. We also try to allocate some money to fix some problems that we find in our 2017 tests, and we hope to continue this process in future budgets, which makes everybody safer and more healthy. The solid waste fund was created in 2016. All trash and recycling revenues and expenditures will be received and paid out of this fund. This is and if people might know, solid waste is garbage truck, garbage cans pickup. As you know, garbage trucks play a heavy role on local streets. Therefore, we transfer $150,000 this year out of the solid waste fund and use them to repair our streets. I think the council was all in agreement that that made sense. Stormwater fund is much like the solid waste fund. It was implemented in 2016. We saved some money on lowering our costs for our solid waste pickup, and $2 of everybody's bill will go to the stormwater fund. I think we're always grateful for rain in the summertime, but they make us realize the importance of rainwater drainage. The stormwater fund is funded, will be used for drain improvements and engineering fees. Now, these are as comes up. It could be just removing a tree in a key place or clearing brush in a key place. But it's nice to have this fund. It's a small fund with an ending balance of about $35,000. A lot of it, we just try to build it up and maybe tackle a large project down the road, but we do have expenditure levels in there just in case something comes up. The Land Bank Fund, which was created in 2015, is pretty much all residential lot sales inside the land bank and commercial lot sales inside the bank will, if we sell it, will go into this fund and pay for the special assessments of all the other residential lots. It's a really nice fund, and it makes our budget nice and clean, so we're not paying specials every year out of the general fund. We can set this aside over here and pay out of the land bank fund. And we, as you know, we had a pretty good year last year in residential lot sales, so this fund is now self-sufficient. Now, if we stop selling lots, we'll have to put more money into it, but this year we don't have to transfer any money out of the general fund, which is a huge deal for the city of Bel Aire. And it served its purpose, the land bank fund. Bond and interest fund, this is mainly where we collect all special assessments and pay out the bonds for those special assessments. The city will also transfer money out of the general fund to fund their portion of the debt as well. Budget timeline, like the mayor said when we started this discussion, this is only to publish the current budget as it is in the paper. We'll have a public hearing. We can change anything we need to. The only really drop dead date is August 20th is when I need to submit it to the county. I ask that you approve this so that we can continue discussions on the 2018 budget. And if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've talked about this several times. We have a city manager, and his responsibilities are extensive, and I have suggested that he have an assistant work for him, and the city pay for that assistant. And the city is, I called it personnel, but my wife calls it human resources, whatever. But he needs someone, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, he needs someone who can work with staff. He can hire, he or she can hire and fire, but also knows how to delegate responsibilities for staff and understands the staff's abilities and disabilities. And since the city, we have we're talking about the budget, and I'm saying that I hope that there is, room to hire an additional staff person to assist our city manager, who can do a better job. He does a great job now, but he can do a much better job if he doesn't have to worry about hiring and firing and distributing, staff members to, do various, capabilities. And so I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we hire, we look for and hire a person who can assist our city manager and make him much more effective. And and that's not, and there's no negative there, Mr. Mayor. He's a very effective city manager. I have no, I'm simply saying that he could do more. He could do more for the city of Bel Aire, and that would be to our benefit. That's what I'm saying. So I'll make a motion that we look for someone who can be a human resources person to assist our city manager. Motion is made, Mr. Mayor.
So we have a motion to add the expense line of hiring a new full-time, I'm assuming?
Full-time.
Full-time.
It doesn't have to be full-time. It could be contractual. But, yeah, full-time is nice, but whatever the city manager and thinks is the best way to proceed.
So we have the first to add a new staff position, would it be contractual or full-time. I know we did have some discussion about this at our last workshop. I'll ask, is there a second?
Apparently not.
Okay. Not hearing one, the motion dies.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I appreciate your thoughts, Councilmember McDonald. And after our workshop, I think it was brought up by Councilmember Nguyen that we perhaps look at bringing someone in to look over. And I think our manager was in favor of that. And I think that would be a really great thing. And I want to thank Ted for the time you spent on this presentation. It was excellent. So I'll make a motion, but I'll wait and see. Is there anybody that wanted to visit first before I make the motion? Any other?
No. The motion
Okay.
failed, so
I'll
make
make
your
the
motion.
motion, okay?
To do what?
I would like to make a motion to approve the City of Bel Aire 2018 budget as presented by city manager and staff for publication and schedule a public hearing on August 1st, 2017 at 7 p.m.
I second that.
May I ask a question
Yes, by all
to
means.
Ted? If we have that $10,000 set aside and the tree board comes, since it's designated and it's not going to be in community development, so let's say they come and they say they want to plant some flowers out here or something, is that where, within the lines of this, the way the budget's going to be presented, that we could give them a few $100s to print, to do flowers?
Yes, and in your
Okay.
agenda packet, there's a line item budget there, and we put
We
it
could just do-
underneath administration.
Right, I saw it, you
and
did that.
It's called development resources, and.
So we would have-
And that's your line item,
Okay.
the city council's line item.
Perfect.
And what under Ty's budget. And also in my report to you, there's also some money set aside for an HR study for our staff.
Right, I saw that. I appreciate that.
So,
Thank you.
All right, there's a first and a second. Before I call for the vote, I'd just like to, again, echo what Councilmember O'Donnell said, that, yeah, this is a great presentation, and it's exciting that we can find the money for the road improvements and have a 0 mil increase. And just to address, we'd spoken about adding additional staff, and pointing out with the new full-time attorney and the new contract with Jones Development. So we're excited to see with this HR study where it goes, and appreciate you guys all sharing input on that. Any other questions or comments on the budget, the publication of the budget? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion and future issues. We've talked about having, inviting the Community Development Committee chairperson to come to our next workshop, where we were going to discuss having a liaison, whether it be staff and or council, talk about their meeting date, talk about making sure that the minutes are getting to city council members, and updating of their bylaws.
Mr. Mayor, I think we discussed at length that this committee or any other committee should not meet on the Tuesdays nights that the city council meets, so that we can have, the city council can have members of the council, whoever wants to, attend their meetings on, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays, so that they can report back, the members of the council can report back as to what is happening with that particular committee. And that's an important agenda item, and that's what I want to explain explicitly. And I think I've just done that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. And of course, we will have another meeting before our workshop, so we can have time to, if there's other additional items.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to add the water resolution R1303 and the sewer resolution R1304 to the workshop. trying to explain why?
Sure.
Okay. Yes or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going through some of the resolutions, and the water resolution, we should be back to 3% on 2016, and because the rates on water were 6% from 2014 to 2015. Sewer was 5%, goes till 2017, and then 2018 it starts at 3%. And I think we need to review those to see that this is, I'm sure it is, but just to review it to make sure that that's being carried out.
So make sure that's city attorney, that we could have something to bring before the council in the near future.
Yes.
Okay.
What's she got to do with it? The
Writing
city manager?
resolutions to
Pull up the resolution and.
Oh,
see if there's,
sorry.
yeah, make sure that we've got everything.
I was thinking Ty, I'm sorry. It's cold up here. Freezing.
That's why I dressed warm tonight.
All righty.
Next one, I'll
Final
let you
item,
know.
would like a 10-minute executive session for attorney-client privilege and invite in the city attorney and city manager. You can see the action there to of discussing the subject of obtaining legal advice for the negotiation of a contract. This is pursuant to KSA 75-4319.
So moved.
Second.
First and second. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
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 All right, we are in executive session at 8:56. That's what I was asking her, right? So, all right. Council just had an executive session. No binding action was taken. Go ahead and call the meeting back to order at 9:08. Is there any other business to come before council this evening?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
First and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.